Welcome to Daredevil and the Details, a show that explores and dotes on the philosophy and themes of Netflix's Daredevil, a digression collection brought to you by Method to Madness and ZeroIndent. I'm author DC McNeil, and I'm joined, as always, by Patrick from A Method to the Madness. And I'll have you know, Pat, this week, I'm a free man. I've done nothing wrong, and you've been lied to. It's the fake news. They've lied to you about me, and it's been a smear campaign.
Or what have you done?
I've done nothing wrong. I'm innocent, and I always have been. And I really am thankful that the federal court has finally recognized that. So I just want to say that off the top. And then I'm proud to be a free man once again.
Right. You didn't like threaten any jurors or anything like that, did you?
No, I didn't kill a man 5 minutes ago.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, just to be clear, that didn't happen. Yeah.
As long as it seemingly went through the legal procedures, then it's all right with me. I want to know what happens behind closed doors.
Yeah, that's the thing, Pat, about truth and justice, is that there's a lot of moving pieces, and you don't really need to know the details. You just need to know that I did nothing wrong. And I'll thank you not to pry any further. And frankly, already you've come across as a little aggressive in your inquiry, so I'll just ask you to back off. That's okay with you.
Felix, please take care of him. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Felix Manning, the true MVP of the Wilson Fisk crime team. Step aside LeBron. We have someone else that we need to recognize. I tell you what, these two episodes, you know how last time I was like, I just don't know where the story can go. I don't know what story is left. I can't believe how much happens in these two episodes. How effortlessly the show is like, hey, what if this feels like everyone going, hey, what if we just did a whole plot? What if we tried a whole thing and then everything falls apart? Like, it's such a good, like, one last push for both, like, the show at, like, a structural level and then, like, at a metatextual level, these characters doing the one thing that they can rely on again. I think it's really, really, it's just great. I really had a good time with these episodes. What about you? What's your vibe?
Oh, these two were so good. These two in particular, they matched up quite well. As there's a lot of serendipity with our episode choice, how we choose to clump them. These two, as you say, it's one last motivation like that they get. There's a plan, they execute it, and it fails, and so spectacularly, so completely. It's great. The desperation is palpable. It's, oh man, I love it.
It's everybody giving everything they have one last time. Oh, yeah, it's great. Okay, let me set it up. So we're talking about Daredevil episodes 37 and 38. So that is season 3, episode 11 and 12. This is our penultimate coverage episode. Next episode, we are talking about the finale, which I cannot wait for. And then, of course, the ultimate finale of our show, which is Pat's Perspective, season 4. Now, what I didn't realize is that since this season came out, it has had a huge critical reevaluation. I purposely didn't look anything up for the majority of the show, but as we approach the end, I was interested. People say that this is the best season of the show. This is like almost got a perfect score on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, this is one of the most critically well-received parts of the Defenders universe. Which is, in my life, there are very few occasions where I'm like, yeah, season 3 is the best season. Daredevil's up
That's
there.
so true.
Better Call Saul's up there. Like, it is a rare thing indeed. Probably Mad Men as well. It's a rare thing indeed. But yeah, I mean, these episodes kick some ass, and everyone seems to have, in retrospect, agreed with us. So let's get stuck in. These are some very plot-heavy episodes, so I apologize in advance for the essays that these summaries became. First episode we're talking about is episode 11, Reunion, written by Jim Dunn and Dara Resnick, and directed by Jet Wilkinson. Again, just some new names that we're not going to see again. So really the production machine of Marvel is in full swing here. Very much gloves off for Jeff Loeb as an executive producer, and really kind of our core team have stepped back and kind of recessed a little bit in a big way that's kind of, I don't feel it in a way that I was expecting to. I'll say that. But let's hear the summary, and then we'll get into the weeds of this one, because boy, is there some really compelling stuff in these episodes to talk about.
All right. On a temperate night in Hell's Kitchen, Sister Maggie wanders the streets of New York, lost in her own reverie, only to witness the devil fleeing Clinton Church. Minutes later, Dex and Nadeem arrive on scene with designs of hunting their prey to ground. Seeking his prey, Dex loses control over the crime scene as Matt and Karen evade the FBI. Amidst the pressing danger, Karen and Matt finally talk to each other. Karen admits she killed Wesley, that she killed her brother, and she warns Matt of how killing changes how you feel about yourself. Elsewhere, Fisk holds a press conference where his lawyers reveal the federal government has dropped their charges. The Kingpin is once more a free man. Detective Mahoney and the NYPD arrive at the church as Foggy surrenders his client, Karen Page, to the police. In a terse standoff, Nadeem gives Karen over, warning Mahoney that the FBI will kill Page at the first opportunity. Meanwhile, Fisk visits the owner of Rabbit in a Snowstorm, a survivor of the Holocaust. She sees through Fisk, describing him as one of those wolves in sheep's clothing, the ill intent that beset the traveler on the road, the very same kind of man who took away her family. Wilson leaves without the artwork. Ray arrives home, prepares his family to flee, just as Fisk's goons arrive. During a shootout, Daredevil saves Nadeem's life, indeed saves Sammi and Seema. Matt takes off the mask, insisting that Ray needs to trust him, that if they are going to get Nadeem's family out, Ray must trust Matt.
Nadeem is a tricky word because it ends in an M. And it really makes it hard if there's another M or N coming after it. That's just a bit of phonetics for you with the English language. Everything about this episode is punching above its weight, considering that all of the core creatives have basically been shunted off the project after the pre-production process. So there's a couple things I want to get into as far as like the actual text itself, but I do want to note that if you want an example of writing such strong structural material that them basically not firing you, but kind of telling you to get lost basically from a project doesn't matter because your ideas are so good, these 2 episodes of that.
Mm-hmm. You set up the foundation so well, and then you also have writers that can are in the same wavelength, pick up where you left off, and
I mean, you think about Goddard and just like Denight and the kind of key players that made that first season what it is. Goddard and Loeb are still EPs in a very distant sense, but they're not touching these projects anymore in the same kind of way. And I think what ends up being interesting about it is this, and I couldn't put my finger on it other than it's just like an ephemeral sense. These 2 chunks of the story feel like television episodes in a way that some of the rest of the show doesn't, and not in a bad way. I guess maybe to try and articulate that thought and paint some context around it, the structural stuff happening feels like it's structural stuff happening, but it's not distracting from the story. By that I mean like it feels like all of the avenues are narrowing down to a point, right? We talked about this last time of like these characters are running out of things to try. In the way that you do at like the conclusion of a story and the big build up to the conclusion of the story. But I could feel it happening, and it didn't pull me out of the story in a way that this sometimes does in other TV shows of the same era. I'm thinking specifically the kind of way that Luke Cage narrows to a point feels like a TV show wrapping up. This feels like a story. I don't know. They all feel like naturally character motivated things to happen rather than structural requirements of the genre at play, even though they are both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because when you have these, I don't know, motivations by characters to when they have a mission, it's not that it's from A to B. They go to the place and they do the thing they were going to do. For example, it's like, I don't know, Matt and Karen have to evade the FBI. But what Matt is also doing on the side, in fact, what a lot of other characters like Maggie are doing on the side, is that they're plotting as well at the same time, and they're sort of doing these 2 things at once. And so you have the FBI and Poindexter exploring the basement of the church, and finding nothing, Matt and Karen successfully evade them. At the same time, Matt's like calling Foggy and like setting up this, I don't know, a new plan. There's always like so many. There's always like some sort of, I don't know, kinesis going on.
Yeah, it's multi-purpose scene work, right? Every single scene. We talked about this a little bit in season 2 with Frank in particular, where there is a sense that in every single scene there is no one primary motivator for the story. Everything feels equally weighted as far as like, as you say, Sister Maggie trying to deflect and distract, or Matt and Karen trying to escape, or Matt and Karen trying to talk, or Matt trying to set up the next move, or Matt trying desperately not to blame Karen for fucking up his opportunity with Fisk, right? All these things kind of blend into this just like brilliantly slow sequence as well. I mean, it starts with you go.
And you have these like it, it's so compelling, watching these characters in peril, how they're going to get out of it, and then you have these moments interspersed in between in this sequence, like when Sister Maggie sees Lantum's body and she falls to the ground, she starts praying and starts like telling God like, please don't judge him for my sins, and you have these character moments that are really heartbreaking, and yeah, it's great.
The way that clashes into Dex being annoyed with her.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like so. It's so. I love Dex in these episodes. He's such. He's like gone from cornered rat into like just caged animal mode in these episodes, in a way that like, it's just so brilliant. I think part of why I really like how this goes is like I said, the slowness, right? So we open with Maggie walking down the street at night, kind of deep in thought. We don't really, she's not a very expansive character insofar as like her acting. She's very reserved, but she's thinking about something, and we presume it's probably Matt and the mistake she's made. And this, as she's thinking about this, the kind of camera slowly pans, there's people running away, and she turns the street and sees Daredevil come out of the church and sort of go into an alley. And then we see Dex basically kill 2 guys with beer bottles, which is just like, he is on tilt this whole episode, truly. Like, my man has had like 4 losses in a row. He is missing every shot. Like, he's never been tilted this hard in his entire life. And what I like about it is that it seems like this is not the happiest, but this is the most fraught with purpose he's ever been. And it seems like for him, he's been looking for this his entire life. Like, even though, and like, he doesn't realize that it's not healthy in this moment. He's sort of, I'm not sure how you would describe it, other than like the performance and the character is so motivated to do these things and so wholly captured by this sense of purpose that he is unable to see past his own nose and make good decisions and win out the strategy and correctly convince Mahoney. Like, he's so fully looking inward that it's almost like the world becomes a vector by which Dex can find purpose instead of the other way around. If you think about the training that we talked about where he practices empathy, and the whole purpose of Dex as an adult is he's this guy pretending to be a kid's idea of what a grown-up is. He's pretending to have empathy. He's pretending to do these things. Finally, he doesn't have to pretend anymore. The world can serve him. He doesn't have to serve the world. And in doing so, he loses the only advantage that he had, which is that act, that pretense, that pretend shielded him and gave him a power over reality. And now that that's fallen away entirely, he's lost any power whatsoever outside of violence. That's his only vector now to influence the world. And I love the way that feels. The way that he storms through every single scene. He's just balled up in this like perpetual rage. It's just brilliant.
Well, yeah, he's found a new hobby, and he's got the ADHD hyperfixation, and couple that with cognitive dissonance, and you got like this raving madman throwing beer bottles at random people in the street.
It's great. He gets into the car after he gets, he has his little tantrum outside, and then he gets into the car with Nadeem. Nadeem's like, "What did you do?" And he's wigging. Nadeem's like, "What did you do?" And he's like, "It's not done. We're not done." And I like the look on Ray's face is, everyone in this show deserves all the awards for their acting, but like this, the moment of him being like, oh no, like it's relief mixed with horror, because the relief is that he hasn't killed Daredevil, or Karen rather, but then it's the panic and like the horror of like, shit, that means that we have to go in there. I love that dichotomy. It's brilliant.
Dispatch, code 11. Emergency services en route.
Dispatch 1054 at Clinton Church. This is a multiple casualty incident.
What the hell did you do?
Get over there. You need to assume command of the scene from the NYPD. Daredevil is a federal fugitive. Lock down the church, lock down the entire area. We cannot let them escape.
God damn it, I asked you a question. What have you done?
It's not done. We are not done.
And then as you say, we get the kind of these different characters in the church trying to outmaneuver each other. You know, Sister Maggie comes up to them and she basically like says, I saw Daredevil leaving, and then Dex has to produce the lamest lie in the entire world, where he's like, yeah, he did leave, but then he came back actually, and I saw it myself.
I saw him and I just didn't do anything.
It's like, Dex, my man, like, that's the best you got? Yeah, he he did leave, but then after you stopped looking, I saw him come back, and you were looking the other way actually, so you wouldn't have seen it actually. So I'm right.
Just went down to the servo, grabbed some ciggies.
Yeah, he went down to get some cigarettes. It's great. A few other things I really want to get to. I mean, as you said, the character drama beats are really, really great. And I think this moment with Sister Maggie, where she's trying to outmaneuver them the whole time, she initially tells them the truth, and then when she goes in with them to the church, they're like, hey, you need to open this gate, and she pretends to not know which key it is, which is great. They get down into the basement, and we kind of cut. This is before all the FBI come down, and we have Matt and Karen kind of start to have their conversation. And one of the best little twists of the knife here is that Matt reveals to Karen, he's like, yeah, Fisk already knew who I was. Like, you didn't need to come warn me, you know? So, like...
yeah.
You know, it's not her fault that Lantham is dead, but, like, it was a pointless exercise. Fisk already knew who Daredevil was. And I love that it's kind of Matt's fault, because he's not been talking to his friends. And so you get this brilliant, like, it's everyone's fault that this happened, and it's also no one's fault that this happened.
But there is also this cosmic positive outcome in that he didn't kill Fisk because of Karen. Yeah, he didn't damn himself.
Right,
yeah.
Which is what Karen points out, right? And the way that she does this. I also, by the way, Matt and Karen hiding in a stone coffin is the weirdest intense symbolism I've ever seen, even for this show. I don't make anything of it other than I just went, huh. Like, you know, when you see something and you go, that reverberates off of the story, but it doesn't, it's not like a, I've talked about this before, it's not like a turnkey for the episode where you're like, aha, the coffin is a metaphor. It just adds to the dimensionality of what's happening. And I love that.
Oh, yeah.
I love that they lie in there, and Matt is basically like sort of contorted around her, and they're just facing each other in this like cold panic as they wait for everyone to leave, and Matt uses his super hearing to kind of keep track of what's going on.
That's peril therapy is what I call it.
Peril therapy, yeah, exactly. This is a lot of couples aren't brave enough to do this, Pat. To climb into a stone coffin while the FBI hunt you down. You know, that's Dr. Phil wouldn't have the guts. Let me just tell you that.
It's like the opposite of a sensory deprivation tank. It's like
it's
like too much
tank.
Too much senses, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so the FBI come down, and Sister Maggie kind of sees the blood on the corner of the coffin where Matt has presumably lifted the lid off, and she kind of intercepts them, and you know, sort of sends them off on a wild goose chase. and continues to do so a couple times throughout this whole sequence. Matt and Karen come out. We get a bit of nice little character drama here. So Karen admits to Matt that she killed Wesley. Matt's like, why didn't you tell me? And she has this little rhetorical maneuver where she goes, it was nice that you thought of me as innocent in some way, that you thought of me the way that I thought of myself before the accident with my brother. And she sort of says, look, there's no atoning for that. There's no way back. And Matt goes, what if this is the way back for me? I can't let Fisk go. The kind of, that thing that we've talked about so much, which is Matt feeling the need to sort of place himself as sacrifice in some way, to damn himself, to damn his own soul to free Hell's Kitchen.
But it's interesting how in this context, it's like Karen is sacrificing herself. In the you look at the model of the themes of the story, Karen sort of admitting that she has killed someone and therefore Matt shouldn't do it because it'll damn him. It's it's implying that she's damning herself. So, and by damning herself, it gives Matt a portrait of what he shouldn't do, because she, that's her whole thing, is that she sees herself as broken. So she's sort of in her own mind. I mean, she already thinks of herself as irredeemable and broken, it seems, but in her own mind, she's sort of metaphorically damning herself in order for the benefit of Matt. If that makes sense.
Right. I think it does. Yeah. And and also like changing herself in Matt's eyes in a way that might be irreversible for their relationship. But what I like about Matt here is that he doesn't say it, but he basically immediately forgives her, like instantly. It's such a fraught situation that he has no recourse to this revelation other than I still don't really have a choice. Like I have to do something. And as this is all happening, we get the Fisk sequence where and it's just like the peril and the drama has never been at an all-time high than it is in this moment, where they're in the basement being hounded by the FBI, and elsewhere Fisk has a press conference and he's a true man, and he's just so heinous. He's so he has this little he's getting booed, right? And he goes for the Trump card where he's like, the media's printing fake news, and they're blah blah blah, and the real public enemy of Hell's Kitchen is Daredevil, and he plays up this it's his plan comes to fruition, which is he's been framing Daredevil the whole time, and he finally gets the opportunity to place that in the same conversation as him being freed and him being exonerated. And
he's so despicable.
It's such a vile. He's a fucking reptile, man. Vinny D is just brilliant in this role.
I love the shots of the protesters and how while he's giving the speech, there's this one dude who's holding up a poster, and then over the course of the speech, he's slowly lowering it. He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the booing gradually goes quiet.
Yeah.
He's like, justice has been served, and he has this such a there's something so snivelly about his charisma that it's the same kind of snivelly grifter energy that Trump has a lot of the time, where it's he's so not good at this that it endears him to people that don't think about it. And I like the way that this sequence, exactly what you just said, really not so subtly, because it needs to not be subtle because there's not a lot of runtime left, is hey, maybe people might eventually turn around on this guy. They might be back on his side, kind of thing. And it's the first moment of that where it's maybe the public's perception is going to change here. It's despicable Fisk. Then back to the church. I like how much time we spent in the church, by the way, just at the crime scene. The show is really interested in going thing happened, let's stay and just be in it. I think other shows, the church would have been a beat and they would have fled somewhere else, but it's no, this is all still the same place. This is the same place that we spent this is where the show started, when Matt woke up. This is where we spent a huge amount of time. This is such a central location, and for the show to be all of this drama is happening inside the church, is great. Like, especially if we think about the kind of the overtures of Catholicism and Christianity and theology, and the fact that Lantham is dead, and he's the kind of progenitor of that in the story for someone in a lot of ways, right? He's the one that is Matt's spiritual advisor in the kind of theological sense, and he's the one that's dead, and it's his church, and the story refuses to move on from that until it's had time to breathe and it's had time to be a space that like matters to the drama of what's happening. It lets the location, I guess, have like a send off, if you want to think of it that way. It gives it its moment of like, this is an important place to these characters and to this story, and it matters that this happened here, and it matters that Lantham died, and it matters that Maggie is here, and it matters that Matt and Karen are here.
This is reminding me of that Rick and Morty episode where they're hiding in the vat of acid and they're waiting for the gangsters to leave, and the head boss is like, no, it happened here. I just want to sit here and soak in the moment.
It's very good. That's a great episode of TV.
I love that episode.
That 7-minute montage that's just to music. Wait, is that that's a different? Is that a? Yeah, that's the same
because
episode,
it's
right?
the episode where Morty gets the reset button. The reset button.
In the script, Dan Harmon just wrote. He's talking about it on a podcast. He's like, I just wrote like, insert really sad montage here, and he was like, the animators will figure it out.
And they did.
Yeah, and they did. That's a movie, by the way. It's a movie reference. I just can't remember the film off the top of my head. The plane thing.
Yeah.
It's been around for ages. It was like a movie in like the 70s or something. Anywho, so Mahoney turns up to the church, and you have this great moment where Mahoney's like, the eyewitness accounts do not match up with like what you like. Why are you still here? Like, we should really be searching elsewhere. Dex is like, no, he's definitely here. So they bring in sniffer dogs, and they immediately pick up on Dex's scent. And he's like, not me, boys, just the bad guys. Dex, even the animals hate him. Poindexter. More Matt and Karen stuff happens. Karen calls Matt out for being an asshole, which is so. She's like, you've been an asshole to me and Foggy, and Matt goes, yeah, Foggy, that could work. And she's like, what? Come on, man. Like, and then he calls Foggy while all this is happening. Fisk. Now that Fisk is a free man, he's got one last task on his list, Pat. He's finished his quest log, and there's one side quest left before he goes and finishes the main plot, and that side quest is reacquire Rabbit in a Snowstorm, which was in his inventory in the prologue, but when he lost all of his powers and had to start again, that got taken away. And you got to go reclaim. He's got to go reclaim it, Altair style, and he turns up to this woman. And what's great is that Felix initially is like, she just doesn't want to sell it, bro. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I offered her shitloads of money. She's just not interested. And so he turns up, and it's great. He turns up at the front door, and she goes, he goes, he starts to do his Fisk patter, and she's like, I know who you are. Take off your shoes. And he just has this like brief moment of, he doesn't react. He just stands there thinking, and then he takes his shoes off. It's like the audacity of her to ask him to take his shoes off.
Like no one's ever spoken to him that way.
No. And so he goes in there. We'll talk about that conversation in a second, because I want to get through some of the Matt stuff. So, okay. Because what's really important here is structural, like the Kuleshov effects that they get, the actual sequencing of these shots. So he goes in. As he crosses the threshold, we go back to the church, and Foggy turns up. He gets inside, and he's buying time. He's like buying time with Sister Maggie, and it's like no one's really sure what's happening. And just as Karen walks in, Mahoney walks back into the room, as they sort of timed it nicely, and he basically says, yeah, my client Karen Page is going to surrender to the NYPD. And Dex is like, whoa, this is our crime scene, like you can't do this. And it's Ray who intervenes and makes the decision, and even tells Mahoney, like he pulls him aside, and he goes, look, if she comes with us, she's dead.
This is motivated by a scene that he had with Sister Maggie earlier, where Sister Maggie asks him if he thinks of himself as a moral man, and they both kind of know that Dex is the killer Daredevil, and
right.
So yeah.
Well, I suppose Maggie does because Matt's told her that it's Poindexter.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of she actually saw him walk out of the church at the beginning and stuff, and she's sort of put it, and the way just the general way he's been acting and stuff.
Yeah. She kind of sees it, but what I like is that probably everyone else does too, but there's nothing you can do about it. Like they're the fucking FBI, which is the problem, right? This is the issue now. Is like they're the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's a federal institution. This isn't Hell's Kitchen no more. This is like if in season 1 they ratted out all of Fisk's people in Hell's Kitchen. This is like that was like a testing ground. That was Fisk playing slow and low. This is effectively Fisk could take over the country, with this kind of leverage. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. And so what I like is
Trumpian illusions.
Well, yeah, it's very much the era. So I mean, this comes out. What's this series? 2018? Is that right? 2018.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it's just before the world ended, basically. Like this is like the precipice of when things seem like they could get better. And so yeah, it's no surprise that while they're producing this, all the Trump stuff is happening. And yeah, so what we then get. So what happens is, as you say, Ray makes this decision motivated by this confrontation with Sister Maggie, where I think for the first time Ray starts to ask himself, like, what the fuck am I doing? Is this all worth it? Like, what example am I setting? And what's really brilliant about this is these decisions won't just have like mortal consequences for Ray. They will have like existential impacts on Ray as a person. This is the moment where everything starts to catch up with him, and he makes the right decision in this moment. And it's in my notes here. I've written this might be him signing his death warrant, and I think he knows it. And I don't want to foreground too much, but in the same way that when he brought the investigator to SEC Hadley's house, there's that there are these moments in Ray's life, these node moments where it feels, and this is the I talk about this moment a lot as the kind of that stories can give the impression that life is a labyrinth, where if you only turned left or right, things would turn out differently, because stories get to be linear in that way, in a way that life doesn't. And really good stories, when you get to those moments where you know that the character makes the wrong choice, if it's really well told, you believe in some part of you maybe believe that this time they'll make a different choice. The example I always talk about is the Anakin walking up to Mace Windu and Palpatine. And every time he walks up, in my heart of hearts, I think Hayden Christensen is going to do the right thing, and he never does. And that's the beauty of tragedy, right? That is what tragedy can elicit as a genre that is so powerful. You think about Hamlet or Macbeth in particular. That the moment where Macbeth crosses the line and he decides, Lady Macbeth puts murder in his heart, and it's at that exact moment. Every single time I watch that play, I'm like, maybe this time Macbeth will do the right thing, and he never does. And this is another of those Ray moments where it's like he's doing the morally right thing, but he's damning himself, right? He's sort of, I think there are other ways out of this, but Ray is such a literal guy that he finally puts himself in harm's way to intervene in this moment. And I just think it's brilliant, because they leave it ambiguous here, and then it catches up very, very quickly.
There's kind of a bit of a theme in this episode about courage and bravery. Like earlier, when Matt and Karen are talking in the basement, Karen tells Matt about how she went to visit Fisk and what her plan was to get Fisk to attack her in front of the FBI, and then she expects Matt to chide her about it. But instead he says, "No, you were brave." And it's like, it's the first time Matt's honestly has been honest with himself about how that's exactly the recklessness that he would do. And so, he's hypocritical for always chiding Karen about it, but this time he's like, "No, you were brave to do that." and just stuff about how is it in this episode? It might be in the next one, but like Mahoney's mother, like takes them in, and everyone's sort of in on this conspiracy against Fisk. Everyone's standing up to Fisk in order to try and like not let him destroy the whole city. And I don't know. It's everyone's been very courageous this episode.
Yeah, and I don't think it is a coincidence that we then get the next scene that we do, which is this conversation that Fisk has with this woman who owns the painting, whose name I have not written down, which I'm very annoyed by. I think this woman's name is Esther, potentially. That is what IMDb is telling me. So, but basically, okay. The setup... Actually, do you want to set up like what the scene is, and then I'll give you some of the key dialogue that is, I think, really pertinent to what we were just talking about.
So the rabbit in a snowstorm painting, which is so dear to Fisk, because it represents the sort of the genesis of his and Vanessa's relationship. I'm assuming when it was seized by the government, when he got arrested, it returned to its rightful owner, who is this woman. They sit down because she has rejected all of Fisk's offers, and she explains to him how this was taken by the Gestapo during World War II in 1943 when she was a little girl, and they sort of murdered her family for it. And Fisk tries to I like Fisk's line, how he says, "Oh, so you understand my predicament then?" Essentially, it's so funny.
He just doesn't have it in this. That's what I love about Fisk, is like the second he's confronted with anyone with any real substance, he just falls apart. He doesn't have it. And okay, I want to talk about two things. We haven't talked about the meaning of rabbit in a snowstorm yet. This will become important, because if we don't talk about it now, it's not going to have any impacts in the finale. Rabbit in a snowstorm, if you think about it very literally, it is there's two things the show has done with it so far. For Fisk, in some ways, it represents when he kills his father, he stares at the wall. Before he kills his father, he stares at the wall. And the wall is like the white the imperfect white plasterboard, right?
Yeah.
The imperfection of reality, the blank canvas upon which he can impress his will. And the kind of the obliteration of reality that comes with anger, right? This kind of like vectorless canvas. And Rabbit in a Snowstorm is also, if you think about it literally as a title, it's a picture, a painting of a thing you can never see, right? There is no rabbit on the canvas. It is the ability to look at something and not see the true nature of it, or look at something and have some true nature be concealed from you. The fact that the show at this juncture tells us, okay, this painting was stolen from her family by the Gestapo, and Fisk tries to use the love that he has for Vanessa to kind of rhetorically barter for this painting. And she goes, this is what she says. She says, "I was a toddler when the wolves came." I also just want to point out, this is maybe one of my favorite scenes of the show. It is such a effortless dramatic turn to have this. There's a lot to unpack, but I just want to put that out there. I'm obsessed with. I would never think to do this, and I'm mad that I didn't write this scene. It's one of those scenes where I'm like, oh man, I didn't write this because it's so good. Because it's so out of left field as well. Like we're so inserted in the drama, and we're so heightened in the jeopardy, right? You think about it literally, our characters have just gotten out of Dodge as far as like the church itself. They haven't gotten out from under the thumb of Fisk, and this is such a like wild swing, just content-wise and topic-wise, right? We're suddenly talking about history and the Nazis when we're so concerned with this contemporary moment. It's such a brilliant like circuit breaker in a way, but it also fits in perfectly.
Yeah, because she wraps it back into the themes and like what's going on with the characters and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So she says, I was a toddler when the wolves came to our door.
The Gestapo demanded everything we had, including that painting. My father fought them. And they shot him in front of us. Do you know what it's like to see your father take his last breath on the floor in front of you? As they marched my family across Poland to the ghetto, my mother went hungry to feed us. But of the 7 members of my family, we were the only ones who survived. This painting is my connection to the people I love. I know who you are, Mr. Fisk. You are a wolf, too. Men like you took away my family, took my ability to love, and almost took my life. You will take nothing more.
And then Fisk says, "You have been through so very much. Vanessa would want you to keep the painting." She says, "Is that supposed to matter to me?" And Fisk very quietly goes, "No, but it matters to me." It's so brilliant. As she's saying, "Do you know what it's like to see your father take his last breath on a floor in front of you?" Fisk is like internally trembling. Because for him, that's part of what the painting ties him to, is his history and the thing that no one can see that sits beyond the frame, the true the violence that he is capable of, the power that he has over reality, the brutality that he has that people can't see, right? The rabbit in the snowstorm, which is that moment for him of sitting there and making that decision, that first decision to violence that he's ever made, and it's the last decision to violence he's ever made because there's no road back for him. And he's sitting there listening to this woman describe that feeling and then reject him from it and be like, this isn't yours. You don't own this. You took, like, people like you took everything from me. And the way that he sits there and like he has no recourse to this other than to just he doesn't have an option here. He has to just surrender to the fact that like he's not the kind of person that can win this argument because he's not the kind of person that deserves this painting.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I mean, it's absolutely stunning and haunting at the same time. And I the way that this refracts off what we were just talking about, of these questions of courage and these questions of putting yourself in harm's way to do the right thing. Here is someone who stands up to Fisk and who has lost everything more than once, standing up to him and being like, you can't have this. You don't get to have, this isn't yours to claim. And she makes him feel that too, right? She makes him feel that people can see through him. He's, he isn't this kind of this immutable, larger than life character. She in some way sees the rabbit in the snowstorm. She sees him for what he is. She sees the wolf among the sheep, right? And that's why he can't have it, because it's the truth. It's the underlying truth of who he is that she's able to see. And I like that kind of, and it's not clean, right? The thematics they don't fit together, but they ricochet off each other. And the more that I think about this scene, the more compelling I find it.
I like that. That is a brilliant explanation. I also like, his reasoning as to why he lets her keep it. Vanessa would want you to have it. Speaking to Vanessa's character, I think we talked about this a bit in season 1. The beauty in the macabre, the stuff of high art, quote unquote, is ambivalent and dark and the painting having this history connected with this woman is something that Vanessa would consider beautiful because of those reasons, and then sort of Fisk, he makes an effort to look at it through her eyes and sort of maybe rightly concludes that that's what she would want. I don't know. It's quite interesting.
Do you think that he's right about this? Because every time that we talk about Vanessa, I keep coming back to this question of like, I don't think that, I'm foregrounding on purpose without saying it out loud. I don't think that Fisk is right about this.
Yeah, based on how she reacts in the next episode, I don't. Yeah, I think so as well. But
he thinks he's. What's interesting, and this is like we've talked about before, what characters think and say about each other is how you get indirect characterization. The fact that he thinks this is what she would want and that he might be wrong, I think is just a really, again, that multi-purpose scene work at play, where when you rewatch this scene with that context in mind, you go, I think he's missed the mark here. Like, I don't think he has like put Vanessa on this kind of pedestal in his mind necessarily to protect her, and he's kind of wrong about her priorities in some sense. In that I think that he, like you just said, I think that he imagines her first priority in all situations to be beauty and kind of not aesthetic in quite the way that the word means, but sort of some kind of formal conception of beauty is her first priority in every situation. And I don't think that's true. I think he might be covetous of the way that she's able to see the world, that she's able to, like you said, draw out this macabre beauty and reality that he just, he simply cannot, right? That's part of why they fit together really well, is that he just doesn't have it, right? The painting that connects them is a blank canvas, right? That is Fisk's conception of like what art can be, but only through Vanessa. And I think that's kind of why he misses her rhetorically in his pitch here, because what he doesn't understand is that beauty is more complicated than he thinks it is. He thinks that Vanessa would like this because it's fitting, that it's returned to its owner and that it's found a home and that it's come to mean something. I think for Vanessa, it's like, it only comes to mean something if you can look upon it and know that meaning and have possession of it and kind of curate it in some way and be in control of it, right? There is sort of there is something indelibly imperialist about being an art curator. You sort of, in the same way that Fisk asserts his control over Hell's Kitchen and reality with brutality, Vanessa kind of asserts her control over this creativity and this beauty in the act of curation and collection, right? There is a parallelism there that Fisk doesn't understand.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what we get in the next episode, right? Is that she wants to be more like Fisk in the same way that Fisk wants to be more like her. And we get the sense that she is tired of living in the world of art. She wants to live in the world of material and brutality. She, it's that's what's novel for her.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting. I think I wrote this in one of my recent articles, but like sometimes I really wish I weren't a materialist and that like I could have some kind of spirituality beyond like art. But then I think about the way that this show conceives of what that materialism looks like for someone like Fisk, and it's so literal. Like the lines in Fisk's mind are so linear and direct, right? He looks at the painting and it's the same moment when he's staring at the wall as a kid, but it doesn't like mean anything beyond that other than it just is a symbol of his connection to Vanessa. Like I don't get the impression that this means anything to him other than like the very literal thing it represents, which is the kind of genesis for who he is. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, which is I think that's the appeal for Vanessa, is like the kind of the closeness, like it's a more direct line to existentialism or something. It's a more direct line to meaning because it isn't complicated.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I see that.
Yeah, I don't know,
mean,
man.
that's the sales pitch she gives to Wilson, right? It's that like, it's like, oh, most people just see like a white canvas, but really, it can be whatever you want, and that is the point of it.
Which is the point of the name Rabbit in a Snowstorm, right? Is that like, which to kind of try and tie it together, right? There's no rabbit, and so you're searching for something which never can be there, but which is always there, but is always there in the eye of the beholder, right? And that's the question of imposing your will on reality, which is what all of these characters are trying to do in some way. The difference is the intent, right? What I love is the way that this show, I like that Fisk walks away here. I think a season 1 Fisk might not have. I like that he has changed in some capacity throughout the length of the show. I think that his relationship with, or his potential relationship with Vanessa, his dealings with Frank, his dealings with Daredevil, I think they've all changed him in some meaningful way. And this is the moment where we get to see that come to fruition. And they've maybe not changed him for the better is the thing, right? Maybe that's the thing that we learn here is like, maybe this is encouraging some of his worst instincts in this moment where he lets her live, but he doesn't understand that there will be consequences for this. That him not dealing with it in this moment and him not finding a way to solve this without violence, he has created a reality around him where every problem is a nail and someone in his team will pick up a hammer to fix it for him, even if he doesn't want them to. He's sort of, we talked in season 2 about the idea of like, there is good freedom and there is terrible freedom. And I think one of the brilliant things about Fisk as a character is that part of his freedom is this terrible freedom, right? To be a man who can do all of these things and to put himself in this position. Yes, he can have all of these things, and yes, he can have this wealth and he can control the city. But also, he's a man who can do these things, right? It's like Joel in The Last of Us. The people that survive and are able to prosper in these hostile environments generally are the worst of us, not the best of us. And I think Fisk is kind of doomed in this moment, in this mistake that he makes in not finding a way to get this painting. And I think it kind of represents the beginning of the end for him. This moment of someone genuinely seeing him for what he is and him having no recourse to that,
He just needed a reason, like a good enough reason.
Yes.
Yeah, and then
But he just doesn't have one.
Yeah.
It's God, I love this scene. I could talk about the scene for an hour, so I'll try and move us along. This is the kind of thing that like if you want to study the way that scene work, dialogue, structuralism, and kind of genre conventions work, this is one of those scenes that like I think in the context of this season of TV deserves some study. If you're interested, I will drop in the whole scene because I think it just deserves to be out there. I mean, we don't get to monetize any of this stuff because it all gets copyright claimed, but I think it has to go in there just because it is truly a haunting piece of art that absolutely ties together so much of what the show is about without explaining itself and without any of it fitting together so neatly that it feels comportable and that you couldn't imagine this being like a film theory. Rabbit in a Snowstorm ties together the whole of Daredevil. It doesn't have that neatness to it. It's not a turnkey. Rather, it's a mirror that refracts the rest of the story and themes and plot into interesting and new conflict rather than solving the text. And this is the process for me of this show working, right? I would not have come to this had we not done the method that we've done. And that's what I think this show is capable of doing, right? As a structure, the Zero Indent review, I think, is capable of getting to these things because long studies of genre fiction produce the possibilities for realizing scenes like this are so pivotal and so interesting in a way that I don't think is possible without the method. So I also feel it's our method paying off in a big way for me here. I just didn't want to walk past it without acknowledging just how great
Good job,
it is.
us.
Yeah. But hey, we did it. We did it. Okay, let's move us along here, because otherwise we'll be here for like 4 hours. So you were saying, just on the note of people being good, my note here just simply reads, Brett Mahoney is a really good, upstanding dude. That's just all this note says, and that's just true. He just continues in this show to be a good guy.
Yeah.
Because he lets him go. He brings Foggy and Karen away from the church, and he lets them go. And they all meet up with Matt on the rooftop. And Foggy's like, we should build a state law case. A bit of American politics for you if you're interested. So there's federal and state law. Basically, federal law would get prosecuted by FBI lawyers. State law gets prosecuted by the DA, the district attorney, for the district that they're in, which in this case is Hell's Kitchen. And what's interesting about this is the idea is, if we, it's Foggy's so funny. He's like, what we need to do is we just need to work together, and we'll work together, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, so pretty funny. Much.
And Matt's like, oh, so Matt's like, so you don't have a plan then? And he's like, no. But like you said, I like that Matt, in the same way that before when Matt was talking to Karen, he meets these characters where they are. He doesn't make fun of Foggy. He gives him a little, gives him a little elbow, but basically he's like, yeah, like, let's do it. We'll try it your way.
There's a line that I really like where when they're trying to convince Matt, and Matt is very firmly on the ground of, you have to face the reality that some people are so rich and powerful that they are simply above the law. And that is what's so great about Fisk as a villain, what makes him so unique. And what gives him this imaginative potential to complicate a conflict like we see in this show about corrupt institutions that are at the top level of society, and how impossible it is for an average person like Karen, Matt, or Foggy to fight someone like that.
Yeah. And what I like is he's above the law because he controls the FBI, and Foggy comes at it sideways. He's like, well, there's more than one kind of law. And that's a really great realization, I think, too, for the show. Now, unfortunately for us, this story is a tragedy, so I don't think this is going to work out super well, but I guess we'll find out. Okay. Oh boy. Then we get, it's a really great moment. So they basically decide to follow Foggy's plan, and they don't really have a plan other than, like, they're going to need to get a witness of some kind to turn on Fisk. And Karen's like, we need someone with nothing to lose. And Matt goes, no. We need someone with everything to lose. And my brain, what I've written down here is, oh no, this isn't going to go well for Ray. So we cut to Fisk in the car. He's not got the painting, so he's already in a foul mood. And he finds out about Nadeem giving Karen over. And he very calmly asks the dude next to him, he's like, give me your jacket. And the guy just, takes it off. Gives it to Fisk. Fisk just wraps it over his head, beats his head in. Beats him to death. Takes like 5 seconds.
And you have this pool of blood soaked into where the dude's face was on the jacket.
It's dark.
Brutal.
Yeah. I think this is just the show being like, hey, remember remember this?
Yeah, remember when he took a guy's head off with a car door?
Y'all remember that? This is that same guy.
Still the same guy, yeah.
But he was benching for like 5 months in prison.
Yeah.
He's stronger than he's ever. Remember, this is the guy that threw a weight, an entire bench press of like 180 kilos on some dude.
Mm-hmm. While the dude was on top of him.
Yeah. While Jasper Evans was shanking him. You'll remember that? It's that guy. What we're saying is our boy is strong. He's swole.
Yes.
And scary as shit. And yeah, he's like, pull over and dump, get rid of the body. Like, driver's like, all right, Mr. Fisk. Like, he just kind of, I guess. The episode ends with Ray going home in this like cold panic, right? He's trying to get his family out. And what I like is the way that this is so mundane. It brings the like existential dread of Fisk literally home, right? It just like it hammers it in, and it's like, this is this dude's family, and he has to basically like this domestic threat of like, quick, like we got to pack, we got to go, and before they can even leave, all these dudes show up. He's having a shootout. He's about to get got, and what I like is that it's the FBI that have come after him. So it's the people that have spent years victimizing him, have spent years not promoting him. The very same people that put him in the trap that he was in, the kind of capitalist trap that he found himself in, where he couldn't get a promotion because of the debt, but the debt was only created by Fisk in the first place because he canceled his sister's medical coverage. Just all of this stuff kind of hitting home here, and Matt shows up and saves Ray as the theme swells. It's such a good... superhero shows good, actually. This fucking rules. I like this genre. It's awesome. And then this also feels like Matt is back to his full strength. I don't know if that was your... He does like a big jump, spin, flip kick to take a guy out. Like he's doing acrobatics again.
I did notice that, yeah. He was being real flippy. And he was being real sneaky as well. Like he does that thing where he's standing behind a very thin cover and then he sort of quietly slides around. I feel like he didn't do much of that in the first or second season, but he I don't know, he's done a lot of it this season.
We did a lot of season 1. It was a lot of like knock all the lights out and then get everyone in the low light kind of thing. Yeah, season 2 was a lot more like flippy dippy ninja. This is definitely, we've said this before, but this is definitely not him at his full strength anymore. Like he's kind of like, this is a reduced guy.
Yeah.
And I like that.
And I love it. It's so cool.
Yeah. It forces him to make more interesting choices.
Hmm.
Turns out having an entire building fall on you, not great for the old athletic ability. They tell you not to do that. That's one of the things. When you first go to gym, that's the first thing the personal trainer tells you, Pat, is they say, don't let a building fall on you.
Just got to walk it off. You'll be fine.
Just stretch it out, man. Just stretch it out. Yeah. We said this in the summary, but he wins Nadeem's trust by revealing who he is. And that's how the episode ends. And I went, what happens now? And my note says, wait, what happens now? Oh, I get to watch another one.
Yeah, I was about to say, and then you realize that you get to watch another episode.
Yeah, that's literally what my note says. Yeah, really great. I mean, just incredible episode of television. This is apparently the 7th highest rated episode of Daredevil on IMDb. 9.3 out of 10.
7th? Okay, I guess that's not too bad considering you got the absolute gems like the Punisher episodes and stuff.
Of the 7, 4 of them are from season 3.
Oh.
And the other 2 are Punisher
really?
episodes. Yeah, so number 7 is this episode. Number 6 is the final episode of season 3. Number 5 is Penny and Dime. That's the Frank Castle cemetery scene episode. Yeah. Where he and Matt talk, which makes sense. Number 4 is season 2, episode 9, 7 Minutes in Heaven. This is the Frank in prison doing his big murders. You know, he does that huge fight scene in the and then Matt and Foggy are trying to break up the firm. Number 3 is season 3, episode 4, Blindsided. So that's the jail prison fight with Matt trying to escape Fisk's men. Okay. People love a wanna, Pat. They love a wanna.
Apparently.
Number 2 is season 3, episode 6, The Devil You Know. This is the episode where Matt survives the taxi. They go and find Jasper Evans, and they kind of start working together again. And Fisk, we get our big, long Fisk converting Dex scene, and Dex goes to the bulletin and does his big murders.
Yeah.
And then number 1 is season 3, episode 13. Wait, I got one of those wrong.
Huh? If season 2, episode 3 isn't on this list, I'm going to be very upset.
It's not. Season 2, episode 4 is. But the last episode of this season is number 1. And it is 9.5 out of 10 on IMDb. So.
Bro, the hallway fight where he's got his hand taped up to the gun and he's got a chain in the other hand?
I know. Look, man. Oh. There's a reason listen, IMDb's a shit website, okay? It's a terrible website. It's bad, all right?
That's why I'm always confused when you and Mitchie always bring up like user ratings. I'm like, I've never paid attention to that shit.
People, if I don't, people bring it up. I get comments, I get email. If I don't say it, people bring it up. They go, why don't you talk about? But yeah, I mean, you know me. Truly, I could care less what people think of a thing. I don't even care if a thing's good. You know, like I increasingly increasingly find myself in that position of if I think it can produce and synthesize something interesting and something meaningful at like a disciplinary level, I'm there for it. If it can't, then I'm like, whatever. Like, I'm not interested. Oh, this thing is just good. Fuck out of here.
7 out of 10 shows, no thank you.
No thank you. Give me 3 out of 10 or give me 10 out of 10. I want to live in the extremes, Pat.
That's right.
Speaking of extremes,
what's that waveform called? The one that rises in the middle and then
I know what you're
slopes
talking
off
about.
at either side.
Yeah. I'm that.
Yeah.
I'm the bottom and the top of the bell curve, baby. Speaking of extremes, Pat, check out these extreme products and/or services while we take a quick break. We'll be right back. It'll be shirts and books. I don't know. It's not going to be that extreme. It could be. Maybe it could be Raycon. I might have secured us a Raycon deal so we can get away from Tim Cook's shitty AirPods that we both have to use. Who knows?
That'd be great.
That'd be great. No, hey, Apple, if you want to get in on it too, I'm willing to say that they're good for a price.
I have no convictions.
No moral scruples when it comes to Bluetooth. Every Bluetooth AirPods is my one exception to capitalism. I will sell out anyone that wants to give us because I just need better. I need them. You know. I've gone wireless and I'll never go back, Pat. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel that.
All right, we'll be right back to talk about season 3, episode 12. We'll catch you in a sec. This season of Daredevil in the Details is brought to you by the Maynard Trigg series. These are my Dying Earth science fantasy steampunk coming of age novels. The 3rd book is out now. You can grab the 1st book, Maynard Trigg and the Creature Beneath the Veil, hardback or paperback. It's on special right now at underink.press. Appreciate any support you guys give. These books are one of my favorite things I've ever done. I'm super proud of them, and I would love you guys to check it out. If you're interested in the stuff we do, I guarantee you'll enjoy these books. Head to underink.press and grab your copy today. Okay, we are back to talk about season 3, episode 12, One Last Shot. A lot of people's favorite episode of the show, apparently, which, I mean, I don't blame them. This was written by Sam Ernst, directed by Phil Abraham. Phil is back, baby, for an absolutely cracking episode. Pat, could we please hear the summary?
Vanessa returns to New York, but remains distant from Wilson. The estrangement between them prompts Fisk to become withdrawn and distant, pushing Dex away in a moment of elsewhere. Nelson and Murdoch escort Ray's family to Mahoney's mother's apartment. Foggy's plan is simple. Present Ray as a witness to Blake Tower for an expedited grand jury trial. After hearing the testimonial, Tower convenes the jury for that same afternoon. Vanessa wakes up late, confesses to Fisk that she feels alone, even among his things, even with him. Karen and Ellison call a press conference. Elsewhere, Dex retrieves Rabbit in a snowstorm, leaving a bloodstain on the rear of the frame. Something Vanessa seems to equate with Fisk, beauty and poise when viewed directly, but one need only tilt their head to glimpse the brutal violence that begets strength, a strength she wishes to know. On the way to the courthouse, Ray and Matt are attacked. After a harrowing firefight, they reach the courthouse and Ray testifies. Karen tells the reporters that Dex was wearing the Daredevil suit. But just as the plan is coming to fruition, Matt overhears the jurors being threatened, and no indictment is brought. Ray flees in the aftermath of this revelation. Fisk finally agrees to let Vanessa into his world, and brings her into the surveillance room. There, hearing Ray's testimonial, Vanessa encourages Fisk to send Dex after Nadeem. Ray stands over the never-finished pool, the remnants of his incomplete life, now detritus in a house his family will never return to. Dex arrives dressed as himself. And for a brief moment, Ray tries to turn Dex, but Dex says he is more complete than he's ever been. In a calm motion, Dex puts a single bullet through Nadeem's skull, leaves the body in a temperate Hell's Kitchen evening. Forgotten and incomplete like so many pavers and bags of cement among the soil and dust of a broken promise.
It does not go well for Nadeem, man. This guy's life. I mean, I kind of suspected this might be how he went out. He always felt like he was doomed in some way. But man, like, for him to finally realize that his pride has been the problem the whole time, and then to relinquish that and to sacrifice himself to keep his family safe. Goodness me, like, the tragedy here is so palpable and poignant.
It is. It's such a, yeah, it is a very clean kind of tragedy. It's I don't know, it's so noble, so chivalric almost.
Yeah, and I guess we'll talk about how this comes about, because I think the stuff with Seema is really interesting. The way that the show kind of positions it's hard to explain the way that it tries to make it messy, and then I think kind of fails. Like you say, in the end, it becomes very straightforward. I kind of wish it was a little messier, the way that he goes out. I kind of wish there was some complication to it, but I guess we'll get there when we get there. The episode opens with Vanessa arriving, so she's back in New York City, and she has this like sort of sidles across the helipad. It's the same helipad where she left for some reason. The show likes doing this with locations. And then we get these kind of melancholic strings that fall into the like upbeat theme. What's kind of interesting is they don't kiss. They just kind of like, Fisk is so big, he just kind of like holds her and they sort of like put their heads together. But I think it's probably a portend of things to come. That they're not, there is a distance between them.
Mm-hmm.
Then this scene blends directly into Mahoney and Foggy getting Ray's family to Mahoney's mom. The whole gang is there: Matt, Karen, Foggy, and Mahoney. But what's kind of interesting is the second that Ray is alone with Seema, she fucking loses it at him. She's like, "You lied to me again. Like, I didn't marry you for your good looks or for your money. I married you because I thought you were a decent man that could love me." And I like that like this is like irreparable between them. That the damage is like done permanently. She's basically like, she doesn't say it in these as many words, but she's like, we're over. Like, you ruined it.
Yeah, well, like the whole life has been uprooted. Not only do they have to leave their home, go to India, but they're like federal. They're not fugitives from the law, but they're fugitives from criminals who are acting within the law. It's kind of the same thing. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's the whole life is blown up, so it makes sense. And she's right. Like, he has lied to her like consistently. I'm thinking about that when he called her when it was in the car after he got shot. Mm-hmm. And like, that's all she wanted to know is how much danger are they in, because that's a realistic and reasonable thing to expect if you're a wife of a FBI agent,
right?
Yeah,
and what I like too is the way that she positions this, right? He's sort of like I'll do better, and she's like, you brought a shootout into our house. Like, I was lying in a bathtub with Sammi, and all I could think is that I hope they shoot him first so he doesn't have to see me die. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, just the weight of the specificity really hits home as she sort of she explains this. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's really, really excellent writing. And really good, again, brilliant acting. But pretty harrowing stuff all around for his life. My guy simply cannot catch a break, in some ways because he hasn't earned one. And I think that's sort of the point of this character, really, is Ray at every opportunity. It was like I was saying before, at every opportunity, he always chooses the slightly wrong thing to do. It's never that he makes a mistake. He just always chooses the worst of two options at any single opportunity.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's there's an interesting like sort of question about whether he's willfully blinding himself, because he's making good money essentially, and he gives that story about how he knows people like Fisk, the fixers, the helpers. So he's not naive to that kind of person, but as he says, has a lot to do with his pride at the end of the day.
Yeah, and like you raise an interesting point, which is how self-aware is he of the fact that he is like deliberately blinding himself with his own pride at times. Well, and like, yeah, there's something about him which like I think he enjoys not looking at it too closely. Like he sort of, I think he quite likes the sort of prideful ignorance that comes with when you put yourself in that position. You're kind of always right because the system is victimizing him, and it sort of always gives him recourse to any kind of if you think about the way that we get introduced to him, it's him at Sammi's birthday party, and Sammy's like, can't we just go to this other dude's house? He's got this like sick party happening, and the credit cards didn't work, and like just nothing in his life seems to work, and it's this kind of position of like, if Ray only put himself out there and was honest and took accountability, maybe stuff would start working, but he just can't do it. Like, until this episode, he simply cannot do that, and I think that's why what you say I think is a really interesting question. Is like, how much of this is he aware of, and how much of it is him deliberately letting that pride kind of shield him from some of the reality of what's going on around him. And I think probably to a large extent that is what I feel is happening. But then he keeps doing these big noble things to excuse the small wrong things he's doing, right? Like he pays for his sister-in-law's cancer treatment, and that kind of gives him this like moral coverall for all of the kind of small wrongs that he does and the small lies that he tells and things like that.
Yeah, it's like Kim in the later seasons of Better Call Saul. When she's scamming with Jimmy, but also taking pro bono cases, it's because she, what do you call them, the scales of justice?
Yeah.
She puts one in one end and another in the other end. They balance out. So, it's a human thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's why every time I do something wrong, I do something real heroic, and it's crazy, man. It's very tiring to be this good of a person,
Mm-hmm.
Now, some would say stop doing the wrong thing, and you would have to do as many right things. But then what would I get praised for? If you know what I mean? Like that wouldn't make sense.
As long as your karma points are 0 at the end of the day, you're all good, man. That's what we concluded in our morality chart video, by the way.
That's true. Yeah, that's it.
It's all about morality points and when and where you can cash them.
Yeah, unless you're playing a BioWare RPG, in which case you want to be as far at one end of the scale as you can, because that's how you're going to get access to the most number of powers. So. Oh,
I see.
Yeah, because you're not going to get Force Lightning if you're halfway dark side. You know what I mean? You've got to go. You got to get negative 100 at least. That's even to get the power, let alone unlock the dark ending, Pat. All right. So yeah, just want you to know that advice is good advice, but not in all contexts. Okay. Not if you're a video game protagonist. That could backfire.
Yeah, not if you're the son of Darth Vader.
Does anyone? I remember this GDC talk really early on. This is a small tangent. Really early on for the first BioWare game with it, because they collect all the data of like what people do. And the developers, like one of the lead designers, was like, yeah, it was weird. No one played the evil path on their first playthrough. Everyone was like a paragon because people just aren't inherently villainous. And so he was like, and they were talking about the design for BioShock 2, and he's like, so we had to make the evil path more appealing and like we had to make the good path more morally complicated. And spoilers, they do that game does. And then BioShock 3, they're like, oh, killing people's bad and saving people's good. Like they go some real like baby's first morality shit to end that series. But what I like about Ray as a character is he's a guy who some people would argue has done the right thing the whole time. you know, like hit the morality of the show is such that like you could plausibly be a person that's like, Ray's a good dude and he was just doing all this to protect his family. You could imagine a very conservative mindset might go, yeah, Ray's a good guy. Like he did everything he could to protect his family. He did what was necessary to keep them safe and keep them fed and stuff like that. And I think that's what makes this an interesting tragedy, right? Is there is a seemingly consistent set of ethics you could ascribe to what Ray does that you might think is like a good person.
Yeah, his priorities are more familiar and less Republica. You know.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And this show has a strong opinion about that, which we won't get to here. And then my next note here, Pat, simply reads, and I don't know what out of sequence or in sequence this is. It simply reads, Nelson and Murdoch are back. God, I love this show. I think that must be when they're like, we'll represent you as Nelson and Murdoch, right? That must be that scene.
Yeah, that was... I like that moment.
Yeah, it's good. They're out on the front porch. Which they should not be, by the way. If you're a fugitive from a criminal empire plus the FBI, stay inside. Don't be going out on the porch. What are you doing?
Especially in New York. Like, there's like hundreds of windows where people could be peeping.
They could be peeping.
Nothing better to do.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, they don't get caught. And so they're like, we'll represent you. We'll take you to Tower. We'll get you to testify. You're going to put Fisk away. And then we kind of... So... This is all happening, so that the kind of two big plot threads of this episode are them trying to get Ray to the courthouse to testify and get Tower to take the testimonial, and then Vanessa and Fisk trying to figure out what's going on with Vanessa. Those are the two kind of big momentum pieces happening here. And so we kind of cut between them nicely. I want to talk about Fisk for a minute, because I think I really like, you know, he brings her to the penthouse, and she has this brilliant line where, you know, he's like, oh, you know, I got this art, and like, you know, I don't have your eye, but I put it where I thought you might put it. And then I thought that you could like curate a collection and you could hang it in the hotel. And like, of course you can like rearrange stuff if you want. She's like, it's all very nice. And the line that she says is, she this is talking about the penthouse. She kind of looks around and she goes, it's everything you ever wanted.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a delicious, like, it's not supposed to be biting, but it is, right? Like it has a beautiful amount of a little bit of friction to it, you know?
And it says so many words about what direction their relationship is heading as well. Yeah.
Well, and it's also true, right? Like that's the thing is we said this in season 1 that a big motivator for Fisk is like to not become the loser that his dad was, and to succeed in the way that his dad never could. And this sort of like hollow rebellion that he is enacting against reality, to prove his father wrong. And like, he's got it all. Like he did it. It's here, you know? And it's still not enough. That's the thing that this signals to Fisk in this moment, is her saying it's everything you ever wanted. You know, there's that brilliant line from the Sandman where it's like, you know, the price of getting what you want is getting what you once wanted, right? This wanting leads to wanting, which leads to wanting. And like, Fisk has everything he's ever wanted, but he's so like, I love how well Vinny D portrays this insecurity, where he's just sort of constantly in these little ways, like overplaying his hand. He's talking too much, and she's not giving him anything back, and he's like kind of needy, and but reserved in his neediness. And you can't tell if she's happy or not because she's not really giving him anything back. And she eventually just sort of fobs him off. And what I love is there's a bajillion candles lit. There's this beautiful dinner place set. There's a bottle of really expensive champagne. And she's like, I just want a bath and, you know, to go to bed. And he goes, the master suite, I can show you. And she's like, I'll find it. And I love the little arm touch she gives him to put him, like, to anchor him. It's the tiniest touch. She just touches him on the shoulder and it anchors him. And it's this brief moment of contact to be like, just give me time. Like, just hold on, you know? I really, really like the direction of this scene and the conservative, the reserved awkwardness is maybe how I describe it.
Do you feel like there's a bit of tension in this scene as well in regards to how Fisk is the guy you don't say no to, and Vanessa is like really sort of I don't know, just flatly rejecting him here, and I don't know, I think maybe on some small level you are expecting him to lash out, but he doesn't.
And this is the second time this has happened.
And, you know, that's
like,
oh crap, my headphones. Hold on, sorry.
Tim's got us again.
2 hours later.
Are we back?
Ah, there we go. Yeah.
This is because at the start you said everything just is working. This is your fault.
That is true.
Yeah, you're right. But I think what works really well is she doesn't say no to him. Like, she never says no. She just doesn't engage with it. Like, she doesn't meet him on the level he's at. It's that kind of like, it's like rejection by like ignoring him or pretending that she doesn't, pretending that she isn't she's pretending that she's not acting weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is also this is the second time he's been rejected by someone in like 24 hours.
Yeah, he's handling it well. He hasn't beat someone to death in actually in between.
Yeah, and he's about to take it out on Dex, so I don't know about that.
Yeah,
he isn't. Yeah, he's not dealing with this well. And I really wasn't sure what to make of all this, so I want to put a pin in it because we'll talk about it when she kind of tells him what she wants. We then go to the next scene is Fogwell's gym, right?
No. Foggy jumps in Blake Tower's car, I think.
That's
right.
Yeah. No, that Fogwell's is I don't think it matters that much.
No. Yeah. I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, at some point, Mahoney basically pulls over Tower, and then Foggy gets in, and he's like, you know, you'll give me like an hour with the witness, and I'll pull out of the race and I'll publicly endorse you. And he's like, look, Fisk has my family, so I have to pull out of the race anyway. You know, if you do this for me, and you know, Blake Tower's like, you know, if you help me nail Fisk, I'll give you 2 hours. You know, kind of. Tower's such an interesting guy. He's such an interesting character.
He has such a great line. You know, I don't even pick up a book at the airport without reading the last page first.
It's so good.
Just like, what kind of character is this man? Yeah. Like, that's such a deranged thing to do, but all right.
What a lunatic. But I mean, hey, you know, if you want to be a DA, that's the kind of man it attracts, I guess.
Yeah, you got to have no sort of like no yearning to get lost in imagination or anything. You gotta be in the real world.
Yeah. There's what's that show with Chris Evans? Defending Jacob. He's a DA in that, and he's the prototypical DA where he just has like no imagination. He's very literal. He's kind of a brute. I feel like Tower is like of the same branch of the same tree kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so we get the plan. This was great. So they're there, and Matt is prepping Ray, and I like the way that the sequence plays out. So they're kind of talking to Ray, and Karen has a fully formed plan to escape Fisk by flying out of Montreal. And she's sort of like, look, you hurt people, it doesn't have to define you. As this is happening, Tower is about to arrive, and Matt confronts Ray, and he's like, why didn't you come forward before now? Ray's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, that's not enough. Like that's not enough. And he riles him up and gets him prepared, basically. He gets Ray to admit that it was his pride, and that he at every opportunity could have done something different, and he just didn't. And he needs to do the right thing now. And the show's production is on point. They're in Fogwell's gym, which is the gym where his dad trained. Matt is in a black suit with the red shades, and Foggy is in like a crimson burgundy suit. Just like and Karen is still in the hoodie with bullet holes in it. Just fucking awesome, man. Like, this show just fucking the maison, what's the maison place? Yeah, the sense of place. Maison scene, there you go. It just chef's kiss. It's on point. You've got the kind of grimy square windows behind the square mosaic behind them that filters in like the filthy Hell's Kitchen light. And they just sit and they have this conversation, and the conflict here is that Tower's like, there needs to be some kind of jail time here, and Foggy and Matt are like, absolutely not. Like, this doesn't happen if there's no jail time. Like, door's right there. Like, you can fucking leave right now. Like, we're walking out on this. And Nadeem agrees to jail time. 5 years for both counts, which I thought was a very small amount of jail time. But so 5 years for 2 accessories to murder is a small amount of jail time. Should be 25 to life, but for both of them individually. So it's a pretty huge deal. And it's a pretty cool moment, because I think for us as the audience and for Matt and Foggy as people, they realize that like they might have a future together as lawyers, because Foggy's like, that felt pretty good, didn't it? And Matt's like, could you stop celebrating? But yeah, kind of did though. Like, you know, and he's like, feels like we're back, and he's like, we're not back yet, but we're getting there. You know,
Foggy's so keen to repair their relationship.
Yeah, well, it's his best friend.
Yeah,
it's his best buddy. It really is, and Matt just giving him all the rope in the world is phenomenal. I don't really have a lot of thoughts other than, I mean, it's plotty stuff that's important that I don't want to kind of breeze past. Again, set design, brilliant. Ray accepting some accountability works really well for me.
Well, why is in before Tower comes and they have that discussion, why is Matt so keen to get Ray to admit his motivations and his reasons as to why they came this far? You know, he says, why didn't you blow the whistle when you watched your boss murder a federal agent? And, you know, he says, because I took the damn bait. And then we get this really, like, beautiful conversation. I can't remember if it's in the same scene of Ray talking to his son. Is that
That's directly after this. So that's Ray is back. They're back at the safe house, but it is directly after this.
Okay. Yeah. And so it all adds up to this sense that, and you know, it's drawing parallels obviously between Matt and the relationship between Matt and his dad. He's listening in on this conversation about how Nadeem, despite coming this far, you know, driven by his pride, doing these things he shouldn't have, he's owning up to it and telling his son that, look, I was driven by my pride. I did some bad things, but I've realized the most important thing in my life is you. So I'm confessing. I'm gonna go to jail. I'm doing all this to protect you because I love you. Which is exactly the resolution that Matt needed with his dad. And which is why he feels like he has such an emotional stake in this, I feel, is because it is. I mean, it's resolution by proxy, kind of like emotional catharsis by proxy. Yeah.
I mean, he's giving really Sammi what he never had.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, I think the other thing is that he needs Ray to convince Tower. And so one of the things that we know Matt is really good at is putting witnesses on the stand and getting them to say the things that need to be said. That's one of his like lawyer specializations. And this is exactly the same. The witness prep of getting Ray into the right headspace to meet Tower and to convince him that he is going to turn state's witness. Like, him telling Tower that he's going to be state's witness is different than him convincing Tower, right? I think those are different things. And I think Matt is trying to get him into the headspace. But it's also what you said, right? Which is, yeah, it's the same thing that he never had from his dad.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which kind of mirrors something actually that we saw in, I mean, these stories love doing this in the Defenders. When Matt when we first come back to him, he's taking pro bono cases, and there's the kid who had the accident, who's now, you know, has his life is going to be different because of it. And Matt's like, you know, they're going to tell you to act a certain way and to get over it. And he's like, but like, you have to not listen to them. Like, you gotta get angry, and you need to like figure this shit out. Like, you can't just let this happen to you. And it's that same kind of parallelism, but the brilliant thing is Matt is trying to give Sammi the thing that he never had and pressure Ray into doing it, and it doesn't come off. Like, it doesn't work. It has the same outcome.
Well, it doesn't work as in like their overall plan doesn't work, or it doesn't work on Ray.
As in, it like Ray still dies, like battling Jack did. Like, it doesn't fix it.
I see.
Like, he forgoes his pride, and he admits like that he's done the wrong thing, and it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of interesting to me. That like it's really gestural. It's not. Like, you know, I think a different show, Ray would survive, and Matt would fix the thing that his father never did for him.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you're right. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. That's why the show's dark, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the tragedy of Ray, I guess. I have a question about Dex, by the way.
Yeah.
So one of the interstitial scenes we get is Dex just brings Fisk a coffee. Is that his? My note says, does he just work for Fisk now? I guess he might. And then, yeah, Fisk shuts him out pretty much. And it feels like he's punishing Dex for Vanessa, more or less. Weird. It's a weird vibe.
For Vanessa?
Yeah, well, he's in a shitty mood because Vanessa's like shutting him out, so he's shutting Dex out.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Well, and also he failed to kill Karen Page. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he does say that,
as he says, it's clear I've placed too great a burden on your shoulders.
Dex is
which is the scathing line.
It's brutal, man. That's like I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. Like, that's the Fisk equivalent.
Has that exact same energy.
Yeah, it's great. So all these moving pieces kind of culminate in the next morning. We get well, it's quite weird. So I figured this out in my notes. Says the next morning. It's actually like later that morning, or like at lunchtime, I guess, because Vanessa wakes up and Fisk makes her an omelet. So this is actually the same. It took me forever to figure out, but I was taking notes. So first thing in the morning, the gang meets with Blake, and they convince him, and he books the hearing in the afternoon. Vanessa wakes up around lunch. Dex brings Fisk a coffee at roughly the same time. Vanessa wakes up around lunchtime because the hearing's at 4 p.m., which is bad enough time for everything else to get organized. So Vanessa wakes up. She's woken up late because she's jet lagged, etc., and so forth. Fisk makes her his Fisk omelet. In my notes, Fisk omelet is in caps, because it's his ritual, right? He does the morning omelet situation.
Yes,
and I love. Oh, I said this before, but D'Onofrio's performance is so perfectly uncomfortable, where he says like, "What's bothering you? I can tell something's bothering you," and she sort of tells.
I love how he says, "Please tell me what's bothering you."
Yeah,
he's so polite.
He's so polite. And she tells him this little parable about being in Spain on the riverfront during this festival, and there were all these couples kissing and holding hands, and she was surrounded by people, but she was lonely, and she still feels lonely now. And you've said quite a bit that the show's specialty is refusing to let characters stop evolving, and I love this Vanessa moment of this is the first time that she's felt on the outside with Fisk in some way, and I like that she's like, you don't let me in. And as they're about to have this conversation, Felix turns up and he's like, "This can't wait." And you can see Fisk be like, "Fuck sake." Okay, and then he goes and deals with it. So they don't get to have the resolution yet. And yeah, Felix basically says, "Look, I fucked up. Nadeem's alive because of me. It's my fault. What I love is the respect that they have for each other. Where he's like, I offer my resignation, to take accountability for that." And Fisk is like, no, I won't accept your resignation. All you need to do is fix it. You fix this for me. Yeah, I like that we have. I enjoy the positioning of Dex thinking he's the new James Wesley, while Felix Manning is really the new James Wesley for me.
Oh, I didn't even. Yeah, I didn't even put that together. That Fisk would view Felix as the new James.
Yeah,
that is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you need a fixer.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you need a fixer / best friend, BFF.
Yeah, that's the thing. Felix can't fill that role, surely, of best friend. He's competent, but he's not a confidant.
Do you think that Dex plus Felix together are one James Wesley? They add up to one Wesley?
No, Dex adds very little at this point to Fisk, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's true actually. Yeah, well, his usefulness has run out.
Yeah,
because
he's
just
a gun that's run out of ammo.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there is a certain point in any organization where having a flippy ninja guy on the payroll stops making sense.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta make some redundancies.
Yeah.
Do you think he gets severance? Probably, right?
He gets his head severanced from his body, maybe.
Oh!
Yeah.
Hello! That's your one joke for these 2 episodes, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome.
You are welcome.
That's one that everyone's dad would love. Feel free to take that one with you.
Vanessa, something's bothering you. Please tell me what it is.
While I was away, I was always surrounded by your bodyguards. How are you, Miss Mariana? How's your day going, Miss Mariana? I was always fine. The day was always nice. One day I found myself on the Nervion River in Bilbao. Hundreds of people. Tourists posed for pictures, held hands, kissed on the riverfront. I was surrounded by people, but I wasn't with them. I was lonely.
Yes, we have both been lonely.
And I still am. I'm here surrounded by your things, your people, even you. But I still don't feel that I'm with you.
What can I do? I'll do anything. Please tell me.
I am sorry to bother you, sir, but I'm afraid this cannot wait.
Not here. I have to... Forgive me, please.
Of course.
Okay, let's talk about the last details here, and then we got to talk about the big stuff at the end, because this episode ends so well. There's 2 big kind of chunks of plot that I talked to. So Karen quickly goes to Ellison and sets up a press conference. Meanwhile, while this is happening, Dex, our boy, with nothing to do but twiddle his thumbs, retrieves Rabbit in a snowstorm. And it's just Vanessa at the apartment because Fisk is still downstairs dealing with his business. And he introduces himself as the new, he goes, just think of me as the new James Wesley. And there's this moment where Vanessa, like, kind of doesn't really know how to react. But you can tell that she spotted the blood at this point because the camera lingers on it to communicate to us that she knows it's there. So presumably Dex conducted some aggressive negotiations, might you say?
Yeah, probably wasn't lawful, I'd say, is safe to say.
Yeah. And Vanessa doesn't seem to mind this. Is the other thing. She's kind of impressed, in fact. Which is maybe what I was alluding to before when we talked about, Fisk saying to the owner of the painting and trying to position Vanessa in a type of way. That's what I meant by him maybe misunderstanding. Because it feels to me that she likes the fact that they got the painting back. And she likes the fact that there's someone willing to do this, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, God, they deserve each other, don't they? I think the next thing is the Matt and Ray courthouse sequence, right? Where they're traveling to the courthouse and they get attacked. Everyone loves this action sequence. It's fun, but like, I don't know that it's all that, you know? So
it's sort of random. Like, is this necessary to, I feel like there's a way you could have communicated this. The point of this scene is that Fisk is, doing everything he can to stop this testimony from happening. You could have just said that they were attacked and not actually shown it. I don't know. Like, seems kind of random.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes we probably don't need, is my feeling. Like, if there was a bit in the script I would cut, it's this sequence. There is one cool detail, which is, I mean, the conversation they have in the truck beforehand is pretty interesting. That's probably the best part of it, outside of the action, which is Ray asks about Daredevil, right? And he's like, I crossed, I stepped off the path for like a brief period of time to ruin my life. You step on and off however you like, and you seem to keep your friends here. And Matt's like, look, it's not because of me, it's because of them, right? Like, I'm the worst of them and they're the best of me. Like, that's just the truth of it. Sort of Ray realizing at this point that his marriage is kind of over as well, in this moment. And then they get ambushed. And the cool bit that I don't mind, that is like an interesting addition, is Matt, they're getting shot at and the bad guys are approaching, and Matt uses his like super hearing to tell Ray where to shoot through the truck wall, or the van wall or whatever. It's pretty cool. But other than that, I could take or leave the rest of it. It's just like they do a big fight together, and then they get to a cab, and then Ray goes, I think I should drive, and then they take off. And that's
kinda... I think they just wanted to show a fight scene with them two working together.
Yeah, it's fine, but like, it's whatever. There is some fun stuff, like they use the bus as like a creative piece of set for a fight to happen in. But it really is kind of skip that maybe, if you're watching this again.
Do you remember at the start of that fight when Matt just like dives through the windscreen of the truck?
It's crazy.
Fucking hell.
My boy is
soft.
It's wild. He just collects a dude as he does it. Yeah. That's wild. I also like that that Ray is just shooting people and Matt's fine with it. He's like, whatever.
Yeah, that was the other thing. It's like it's like probably the closest in I don't know how to describe this, but the degrees of separation between someone dying and Matt's actions have always been justifiably far, but this is like the closest that's ever been, I feel, of him telling someone where to shoot and then someone shoots them and then they die.
He's controlling Ray's character in a video game.
Yeah.
He's like, but I didn't pull the trigger.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I like the kind of, this is like in the Batman when they go into the abandoned orphanage, and Jim Gordon pulls out his service revolver. Batman looks at him and he's like, it's your rule, not mine. Like,
Yeah,
that's your thing. Like,
man.
it's very funny. Yeah. Look, then the big important plot stuff. They get to the courthouse. They go in, and he provides his testimonial. While this is happening, Karen gives a press conference and drops the bombshell that it's Dex that's wearing the Daredevil suit. It's not the real Daredevil. And this, for a minute, it's like, oh, this is gonna work. Like, this is fully gonna work. And then Matt overhears, like we said already, one of the jurors starts reading out where everyone lives to threaten the other jurors into not bringing the indictment. And Ray realizes that his family's never going to be safe as long as he's alive. He decks Foggy and then gets out of there. And this all happens really, really quickly. And Ellison kind of helps Karen get away from the press. One of the coolest bits about how this is sequenced is this all happens in about 7 minutes of TV. Like, the build up for the plan, which has been 2 episodes, just falls apart instantly. Like, it's... And what's great is it's something that Fisk has done before. That's the thing that I couldn't get over, is he does this in season 1 with the jurors in the case for the guy. You remember the assassin with the bowling ball?
And they blackmail that woman with like a sex tape or something.
Yeah. He's done this before, and so it's a move they should have seen coming, but they don't. And that's what I love about it, is like they could have anticipated this and they don't, because they're out of practice. They haven't been Nelson and Murdoch for a minute, you know what I mean?
Well, also, like, it's quite impressive how quickly Fisk finds out about it and then acts on it. Like, it happens within, like, the span of 12 hours.
Felix is really pulling his weight here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And like, that dude managed to memorize, like, 20 addresses?
I couldn't do that.
Lunchtime? Damn.
That's crazy. I couldn't do that shit, Pat.
I love how he's reading the list of people and then addresses, and then he only when he gets to that one woman reads her address, he's like, "What? That's my address." It's like,
you don't
how did you not figure that out?
You don't think that was the first address?
No, it's the middle. Like, well, the scene plays. There's enough of that scene that plays before where he's reading out other addresses, and then only he gets to that woman after like 2 or 3 other people. Maybe
he memorized the other addresses wrong, and so people are like, what are these? I don't know this, you know? That's the one he remembered, you know? Yeah, it is. Hey, you know what? Sometimes TV has to TV, Pat. And
yeah.
And this is part of where, like, if the original writers were here, this wouldn't have happened this way. They would have fixed that, I feel.
Maybe. One other funny part that I like is, because, you know, Karen gives the statement and then they don't indict Fisk. And so Ellison and Karen are hurrying away from the press in a embarrassed flurry. One of the reporters says, did you just make up this story to, you know, give the Bulletin some credibility? And then Ellison goes, yeah, fuck off, Jerry. Like, no one asked you. Like, they know each other.
Yeah. Well, of course they do, because he called them. They're all the other newspapers, right? That's so funny. Yeah. God, Ellison's great. I'm so glad he didn't die.
Yeah.
So we then get Vanessa saying to Fisk, like, I want to be in your world. And she kind of like tells him that she finds his, like, she does this indirectly, but she basically is like, I find your brutality intoxicating. She wants to be fully a part of this life, like a partner in crime with him, not just outside of that. And it's sort of, Fisk has to be completely vulnerable in this moment, because if he invites her in and she rejects him, I think that, like, that would destroy whatever is left of his humanity forever. But she doesn't, and she kind of, she comes in, Ray is at his house, they realize, and they're sort of discussing what to do. And Vanessa just, like, it's brilliant, you know, that they're like, oh, we could do this or that. And she's like, well, but if he's a threat to us, wouldn't it be safer if he was removed entirely? And
she's trying to make a show of.
Yeah.
She's trying to not let him down after he's graciously let her into his world. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really insidious, because, you know, he sort of puts his hand on her shoulder and she's sort of like rubbing her cheek on it, you know, and she goes, "Oh, perhaps we should send Dex to, you know, Agent Point Dexter to deal with it." And it's so the vibes are foul, Pat. The vibes are foul. I don't like it. It's the just evil shit happening, gross evil shit while Ray is recording a video saying goodbye to his family.
You don't like evil power couple? Come on.
It gives me the ick. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's fine when people do it on Wall Street, but I can't girl boss in my fucking boyfriend's crime family. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
The hell.
Cancel for being sexist, I guess. Just kidding. The people doing it on Wall Street are criminals too, boys. Got him. Okay. Yeah. Then, I mean, the episode, we already talked about it in the summary, but the episode has this big climax, which we can kind of talk about here. Ray is moping around his house. He's having a beer. He's in that moment of realizing he's going to die. Or most likely he's going to die. He still gives it a go at the end, which I wasn't expecting. Dex, okay, a detail I really like. Dex turns up not in the Daredevil suit. I don't know why that detail is notable to me. It just is. I don't know.
It's more symbolically potent that he's just Dex that shows up, you know, because him and Nadeem have a history.
Yeah, and he's in the FBI windbreaker as well.
Oh, is he? I thought okay.
Yeah. And then he tries to get Ray to come inside, so he's got somewhere private to shoot him. And what I love is that, you know, Ray's like, "I hoped it'd be you." And you know, and Ray starts to sort of talk about all this stuff, and Dex very fast, in this very facile tone of voice, repeats all the empathy that he's learned, where he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Ray. That must be really hard," you know. But it's just completely emotionless.
It's so weird. Why does he try that? Why?
I think it's just a reflex.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of that relationship he has with Ray, where there is a level of respect between them. And he's one of the few people, you know.
I feel like in this moment, Dex he has some sense of like, I don't know, shame or grief or something akin to that. Like, he would rather not do it, is the sense I get.
Yeah, and when Ray sort of tries to turn him, and he's like, "You could be State's witness too," it forces Dex to face the like simple horror of the position they found themselves in, which is that Dex is happy for the first time in his life. He's whole for the first time in his life, and it's going to cost Ray his life. You know, for Dex to be happy is for him to kill, and to have someone that will direct him, and to have that guiding, that North Star that his therapist talked about, right? And to do that, there's a price, and that price is Ray's life. And yeah, he shoots him in the head. Ray tries to go for his gun, but Dex just goes poof, like without moving. He shoots him in the head. And yeah, he kind of dies in his backyard among all the construction equipment, next to the pool that he could never afford to finish.
Well, he's in the pool. He's in the place where they dug out the pool.
Yeah, he's in the
very
hole.
Symbolic. Yeah.
I couldn't tell from the framing if he was literally in the pool or not, but that is how I've remembered it. Yeah. That's I tried to inject some of that symbolism into the summary because it is really potent in the moment. But it's that symbol of pride for Ray, right? You know, it's in that when we first meet him and Sammy's like, "Oh, I want to go to this other kid's party that, you know, they've got bowling or whatever." He's like, "Well, just think, you know, when we put the pool in, all the kids will be over here in summer. You'll be the cool kid with the pool," kind of thing. And it's just this symbol of his pride, this symbol of this sort of this thing that he can't afford, that he is so insistent on achieving because of that pride that he has. You know, it's so emblematic of who he is. It's like it's about the way things look, not the way things are for Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's buried there. And Matt I mean, the way the episode ends is Matt basically storms out and he's like, "We tried it your way."
Yeah.
And yeah,
God damn.
It's some pretty heavy shit, truly.
I do love that last line. We tried it your way. The show has a remarkable quality for destroying everything, like destroying plans and motivations and plots. And it's unexpected and I don't know.
There's
very compelling.
Yeah, there's a quality to the way that this all plays out in that I think what makes this so devastating is like you said before, does this go differently if Vanessa isn't trying to prove something? Does this go differently if her flight is delayed by a day and she's not here for this? Does this go differently if Fisk does accept Felix's resignation? Like, there are so many things that could go another way that don't, that lead to this tragedy. And it's like the perfect storm of events that feel so inevitable as they happen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's just this like existential dread of like all of these pieces falling into place. And clearly Fisk has some plan. That's the other thing, is like, we don't know what his end game is yet, but we know there's one coming. And so it's not just that like this is bad enough, but then it's like, well, we have no recourse. And also we know that he's been doing all of this for some reason and we don't know what it is yet. You know, he's cleaned off the board of all the criminals in the city. He's tried to buy off the DA. He controls the FBI. What's all this in service of? What's the end game?
I think I remember the answer, and it's kind of I think it's kind of funny. I won't say what it is, but I forgot what I was going to say. Just stay tuned.
Okay. Look, hey, I'm staying. Pat, I had to physically force myself to be like, close the window and not watch the next episode. Like, it's, I'm like, I need to know how does it go? Yeah, really, really sensational episode of TV. And it goes by like that as well. Like, it's very quick. Even though it's longer than the previous one, the pacing is really exquisite. Maybe with the exception, as we said, of that action sequence. But yeah, I'm very excited to, I guess, see where it goes and see how this wraps up, because I do not remember for the life of me what this last episode entails. It's a long one, and it's called A New Napkin, episode 13. Very excited to get stuck in, and then hopefully, I mean, I'm sure it'll be a big episode. We'll have a lot to talk about, so we're going to cover that next episode, as well as our thoughts on the show as a whole, and then we might talk a little bit about maybe what we want to see from the kind of characters moving forward, and you know what this kind of reboot of the reboot ends up looking like, and the stuff we're interested in, and then we will have something that I'm frankly incredibly excited for, which is Your Perspective season 4. So that I'm very excited about that, and then we'll take a bit of a break, and I will figure out what to study next. I know that by the time this comes out, I'm sure they'll be out, but we're definitely going to cover The Matrix over on A Method to the Madness. Very soon. This probably won't go up till like September, so that'll definitely be out by now. I'm very excited about that.
Were we ever going to talk about She-Hulk? Was that ever on the agenda?
Yeah, I've got a few bonus episode ideas that we could do, like one-offs. I just don't think they would earn a whole like close study.
So I was thinking we could sneak it into the next episode.
Okay. I don't know if I have time to watch all of She-Hulk before then.
All of it? I mean, he's only in one episode, isn't he?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's only in the one.
I think if we're going to talk about it, we should meet it where it's at and watch the whole thing.
Oh, no. No disrespect to She-Hulk, but I just once, like, it's not the kind of show that Gets better on a rewatch, I feel.
That sounds like my kind of show. We will think about it. We'll figure something out. We definitely will talk about it. Just whether it's next time or not. Maybe what we do, maybe this is how we do it, is we do our coverage next episode, episode 13, and then that will give me time to shotgun all of She-Hulk, and then we can do a quick bonus recording on that. And that can go up on the feed, because I'll probably have to do a lot of editing on the Perspective Season 4, because I'm going to do sound effects and all kinds of shit. And music and such. So maybe that'll go up to give me time to do the full edit on the Season 4.
Okay.
That's my tentative plan. I'm going to put it in the show doc right now. She-Hulk bonus episode.
But the thing is that, you know, it's very episodic, and like, you know, obviously I forget what Jennifer Walters or whatever, her story's got a through line, but there's nothing. If you just watch the Daredevil episode, you won't be lost or anything, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna watch that one.
I'll watch the whole thing, because I'm a glutton for punishment. So, and you dear listener, may do the same thing. It's entirely pick your poison. What I like as well is some people are watching along with us, some people aren't. And it's quite interesting to me that people that are watching along, because I do this with some other shows that I follow as well, where I mean, show by genre is a very similar-ish format, probably more so than a lot of the other stuff that's out there podcast-wise. But that's books, so it very much feels like a university seminar where each week it's like, okay, read these chapters and then come back. But it's like really good genre fiction, and it just makes me go like, fuck, I wish I could do my uni degree again. I have so much fun doing that now. Alas, I'm sure everyone's had that thought at some point, if you actually enjoyed your degree. Anyway, we're going to get out of here. It is, not to spoil how long these take to edit, but it is currently Easter Sunday. So, you know, does he come back today, or does he come back tomorrow?
That's a good question. I was actually thinking about that before this holiday.
I think it's Monday. Because he's in the cave for 3 days, right? 3 days and 3 nights?
Yeah, probably.
Could be. Man, it's been a minute since I read the Bible. I would simply be more dramatic. Like, I would do something more dramatic with it, I feel. Like, I might sort of... Yeah, like, oh, the boulder's gone, and oh, where's he off to? Like, I might sort of come out and I'm holding the boulder, you know? Atlas style.
I would come out on like a Mad Max vehicle with an electric guitar spewing flames out of the exhausts.
That's strong.
That's what I would do.
It would be you'd have the band would be like Pat and the Messiahs or something like that, you know. Like
Pat and the Resurrectionists.
Pat, there you go. Ooh, the Resurrectionists. That's a great word. I like that. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get the fuck out of here, Pat. Where can people find you on the internet if they want to hear more of your thoughts on film, television, and philosophy?
I have a podcast called A Method to the Madness. Search A Method to the Madness podcast on any of YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. We also have a website, AMTTM.com. You can find our episodes and our socials from there.
It's also linked in the show notes, as it always is. We appreciate you guys watching and or listening and giving a comment, an engagement, a review, whatever it is on your platform of choice. It helps more people find the show. We don't do any advertising outside of our own shows, so word of mouth is the only way that we get new listeners. So if you know someone that you think would enjoy the kinds of things we make, be sure to send this to them and say, hey, you'll love this. Check out these two guys and these long forms of genre. These long-form studies of genre fiction. It is genuinely one of my favorite things to do, and I'm really, really excited for this to become kind of a key format for the stuff that I make moving forward. If you have any suggestions for what you'd like us to study in the future, whether, you know, each season might have different guests on, there'll be different kind of contributors and things like that. I know Rybold is really keen to jump in on a few things, as well as a few other people that I work with. So keep your eyes peeled. We will take a break after Daredevil, but we will be back with more goodness and more long-form studies of genre fiction. We appreciate the heck out of you guys doing everything you can to help support us over at the Patreon, going to underink.press. You can grab merch, grab the books the Maynard Trigg series. You can grab my Sherlock book. It all helps us keep the lights on and helps justify the time that we invest into the show. It does take a lot of time and energy to do the research, to do the editing, and to get this out to you. So we appreciate the heck out of it. We're going to get out of here. We're going to see you next time for the finale of Daredevil. Woo! Season 3, episode 13, A New Napkin, Daredevil episode 39. Stay tuned.
A lot of threes.
A lot of threes, baby. And it's episode 23 of our show. So go figure.
Oh, there you go.
How about that? We'll see you guys next time. I'm so excited to talk about it. I think it's going to be a really, really fun episode. And I think a lot of the big pieces of the method are starting to pay off for us here. So stay tuned for that. We'll catch you next time. And Pat, as we always say, I was innocent the whole time. The media has slandered me. It's fake news. And I'm a good person. And I'll thank you not to slander my good name. And yeah, I'll just thank you to mind your own business, if that's all right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And or else expect a knock at the door. All right, see you next time, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.